Hey guys, what's up? Yeah, about time I put up another video because I did say that I was going to be making videos more regularly, and well, I need to get on doing that, don't I? Um, I do, later on, probably my next video, I do plan on doing a video on Dark Souls 2, namely, what I think about it, pros and cons and all that type of jazz. The short version of it, yes, it's good. Get it. It's a great game. But there are some pros and cons, and I'm still debating whether I'm going to do a video on that just on my own, as just giving my own opinion, or if I want to bring in Demoman Chaos on this because he and I have both been talking about the game to each other and like trading tips and opinions on the game back and forth as we both play through it. So I'm debating whether or not I should bring him in on this and then we both do a video on it. But we'll see. I'm thinking about it right now, but that's not what this video is about. So let me shut up about that. As you can tell, this is a more of a serious topic. Basically about the human condition and how civilization seems to be kind of screwed. Um, Topics like this and this general theme tends to be the sort of thing that I think about all the time. I've stated this before, and friends and family of mine will tell you that I constantly have things going on in my head. Like I'm constantly thinking about things 24/7, things constantly going on. And this is one of the things that I mull over. And I have to admit, I'm a little bit of a pessimist at heart when it comes to this sort of thing because humans as a whole, like every now and then I see brief flashes of hope and a few things that kind of make me feel good, but most of the time, you guys piss me the fuck off. I'm saying you guys, I'm talking about humans in general, is you tend to fill me with dread. And an article that I just read and a research thing that I just read and an explanation of it is kind of confirming my just in my trepidations of where humanity is going, like my frustrations with humanity at large. Basically, let's just get on with this. You will notice that I've put links in the text description, and I suggest that you guys read those links, check out what they're talking about because it is very important. It pertains to all of us, and I really hope that at the very least the younger generations pay close attention to this and actually decide to act on this in some way because it is vitally important, at least, especially for them, on where their lives are headed. Um, to get on with this, there was a study that was sponsored by NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. And basically, according to the articles I've read, the study basically states that, quote, the world's industrial societies are poised to collapse under the weight of their own unsustainable appetites for resources. Yeah, this is the sort of shit that people like me have been saying for a while now, and more people are beginning to confirm this. More established organizations are coming around and finally admitting, yeah, we're screwing up big time, and there may be no way to reverse it. In particular, the study seems to be boiling down to two factors, and these two factors in particular get to the core of my frustrations with conservative thinking and the direction that this country seems to keep marching into. This is at the core of the matter of why I argue against these type of philosophies. Because what the study is boiling down to is that the two things that are ensuring the complete collapse of advanced civilization is basically economic inequality, the lack of sharing of resources that and the fact that we're consuming resources at a rate that is unsustainable. That's it. It's those two factors. Period. And again, this is something that people like me, and I'm not saying people like me as if well, I'm important. No, like just people who are concerned about this stuff. We've been saying this for what, the past 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50 years now, if not more so. Again, this was a NASA-backed study, the NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center study. I'm going to put a link to the study itself. But for those of you guys who don't really want to read through all that dry material, though it is important, there'll be two related articles for it. One's a Gizmodo article, and the other one is a summary of the study by Dr. Nafiz Ahmed over at The Guardian. And there are certain key points in there, though, that I want to relate here real quick. For instance, Ahmed says, and I quote, "The fall of the Roman Empire and the equally, if not more advanced Han, Mauryan, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Mauryan and Gupta empires, as well as so many advanced Mesopotamian empires, are all testimony to the fact that advanced, sophisticated, complex, and creative civilizations can be both fragile and impermanent." So in other words, don't think that this, the advanced civilization stuff is guaranteed to last forever. It's not. And in fact, they fell basically because of human greed and not making sure that everybody's able to equally share in the resources at a rate that actually is sustainable. Also, he states, technological change can raise the efficiency of resource use, but it also tends to raise both per capita resource consumption and the scale of resource extraction, so that absent policy effects, the increases in consumption often compensate for the increased efficiency of resource use. Yeah, not good. And then here's the solution. And this again goes to the core of the problem of political and economic theories. He states, Dr. Ahmed states, this is, well, I shouldn't say Dr. Ahmed, this is the researcher's suggestions, and Dr. Ahmed just sums it up like this. The two key solutions are to reduce economic inequality so as to ensure fairer distribution of resources, and to dramatically reduce resource consumption by relying on less intensive renewable resources and reducing population growth. Let that sink in for a while. The reason why I'm saying let that sink in for a while, because that particular solution tells me two things. One, as I've stated many times before, and as is my frustration, conservative and right-wing thinking are anathema to human sustainability and to the welfare of society, because it's standing in the way of the very things that society needs in order to advance, grow, and basically continue to exist. And second, we're fucked, because no one's going to be doing those solutions, especially in this country. Think about it. It says we need to reduce economic inequality. This is something that whether you happen to be sitting on the right of the divide or the left of the divide, everybody wants that. They may think that they don't, but deep down inside, because, the view that most people have, particularly of the United States, is that things are generally economically fair and they could be more fair. But they're not. They haven't been for a long, long time. And one can argue, and I think successfully, that it really hasn't been since the beginning of this freaking country. And the beginning of many countries in particular. And nations have always tried to set it up so that people are always doing without, while a small group of people hoard all the shit for themselves. And I'm not just talking about money, it's just resources, period. That's one of my biggest problems, by the way, when we start talking about economic inequality. Everybody's always focusing on the money and rather just the symbol of money. People seem to forget. They may say it every now and then, but they're not really understanding what it means. Money is just a representation of resources. If you fully absorb that, if you really understand what that means, then you'll start to realize why hoarding a whole bunch of money to yourself is fucking ridiculous, because resources are meant to be cycled and consumed. You can't hoard. Like, if money was suddenly to transform instantly into the things that it represents, imagine how much waste would suddenly be apparent to everybody, even the most stupid. You can't hoard millions of dollars worth of carrots, for instance, without it going to waste. You can't hoard a whole bunch of freaking chairs. It makes no goddamn sense. People need to sit on those freaking things. Why would you keep a whole bunch of chairs to yourself if you're not even planning on sitting in them? You can't. And think about it. People buy a whole bunch of, people who are rich sometimes buy a whole bunch of stuff that they couldn't possibly use as a status symbol, but the shit's just sitting in a garage or in a storage unit somewhere going to waste. No one's using it. It's just there. It's a waste. Now imagine that with food. Imagine that with certain goods and services. The stuff needs to go around in order for it to be useful. But because they see it as money, it's not clicking because it's still in the abstract phase. I really wish people would realize why it makes no sense for a small group of people to have most of the resources that the society that they're taking advantage on needs. And I keep saying this, when you deprive people in a society of the resources that they themselves help to reduce, it's late at night, that they themselves help to produce, when they're not able to get their hands on the resources that keep themselves going, they get sick, they become weak, they become apathetic, and suddenly most of the people in the nation or in the culture or the society that you're trying to keep going collapses because the people just aren't strong and mentally fit enough to keep it going. You would think that this was, basic sense, but this continues to go over the head of people. But that's just one aspect. The other aspect is at the rate that we're consuming resources. And this is now going into natural resources. I hate to break it to people who just haven't woken up to reality yet, but resources are finite. And even though you can renew certain things here and there, there's a certain rate to which you're able to bring this stuff back. Now, I know that when it comes to renewal, people are trying to go to like wind power, solar power, and I do believe that with the right amount of thinking and research in those areas, you can come up with something sustainable. But right now, solar power and wind power is kind of being done half-assed. And the reason why it's being done half-assed is because the greedy assholes haven't found a way to maximize profits off of that yet. And that's pretty much what it comes down to, which again goes back to the whole greedy type of stuff, bringing down all of society. It reminds me of something that is basically stated in the Tao Te Ching, that old Taoist text written thousands of years ago, which and I forgot exactly which chapter it was in, but the line basically states there is no greater tragedy than greed. People understood this way back like thousands of years ago, and it's still causing a problem now. There is no greater sin or tragedy than greed. It can cause the downfall of an entire fucking civilization if left unchecked. And in this case, greed is keeping us from moving on to a better way of being able to power all the devices we have and, the homes we live in and just whether it comes down to cooking our food or whether it comes down to us making videos with our computers. This stuff takes energy. The energy that we're using right now, quite frankly, is just not sustainable at the rate that we're consuming it. Smarter people have already pointed this out. And if we were allowed to let them continue researching things, I am pretty damn sure without the greedy assholes in the way, we would have already come up with a solution to this. But we haven't because there isn't money in it. So we're doomed to fail. We're doomed to be fucked because it's not only the greedy motherfuckers with all the shit, hoarding it to themselves that are standing in the way, but it's also the assholes who are supporting them, not realizing that they're being fucked over by these people who are standing in the way, continuing to live, focusing on completely idiotic ideologies with the secret hope that maybe one day they'll get to be the ones to take advantage of this rather broken system. It's a pipe dream. They never will be able to take advantage of the system the way a small group of people have, because the system has been rigged for them to fail. I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist here. This has nothing to do with conspiracy theories. I quite frankly can't stand most conspiracy theorist bullshit out there. But this is just something that you'd be able to get just by reviewing history. There is a sickness in this country where people, I've noticed this as I talk to them when you find people who defend the way capitalism is being used in this country or defend what businesses are doing, what rich people are doing. The more you talk to them, the more you begin to realize the reason why they support this stuff is because deep down inside they're hoping that they one day will be able to take advantage of this. I remember once being at a particular job where these guys were trying to market and sell stuff. And they were talking about how, I'll admit I vote Republican because I don't want my taxes being messed with because I'm making the money now. Greed. They secretly want, they know the system's rigged deep down, but they're hoping that they'll be able to be the ones to do the kicking. They're right now being kicked, and they know it, but they think sooner or later, somehow, they'll be able to get into the position where they'll start doing the kicking to everybody else. Ain't gonna happen. The odds are good it's not gonna happen to you. If you were smart, you'd be trying to fight for a system that guarantees that you get a better share of the pie for the work that you put in. Because right now, the work that you're putting in, you're getting a lot less than what you deserve. Simple fact. But I'm going a little bit off topic here. The reason why I'm talking about all this is simply because you got dumbass ideology standing in the way of keeping advanced civilization from going. And you basically have the way we're consuming resources standing in the way of it's pretty much ensuring our doom. And the solutions happen to be things that the mainstream just doesn't seem to want to do. So we're fucked. I don't, it's, when I was reading this a while back, because I read this days ago, I'm only just now getting around to doing this video. As I'm reading this, I just kept hearing, what's his name? The guy who did the Sequelitis episodes on YouTube, and he really needs to get around to doing another one. I don't know why it's whatever. I kept hearing him in my head going, "You're fucked." Reminding when he did the Sequelitis episode in Castlevania, and he was talking about, like, you know, if you couldn't fight a chicken, you're fucked. And I kept hearing that voice in my head as I was reading the article, because it's like, yeah, we are fucked. Granted, I know that there is a growing backlash right now against all this shit. I mean, I'm in touch with these people, and I'm reading the articles. I'm seeing the grassroots organizations popping up and saying, you know, enough is enough. But there's still a really strong, you know, block in this country that just will not see reason. You can give them as much fact. You can give them scientific facts. Hell, this is now being backed up by a scientific organization. And I know there's still going to be people saying, this is bullshit. And right now, as far as I can tell, and I hope somebody proves me wrong. Please, somebody prove me wrong. But right now, their opinion is the main one holding sway. I mean, for God's sakes, right now, there's several states that have just banned electric cars from being directly sold to customers. Why? Because it's going to take money off of organizations that are already profiting off of electric cars. Something that was going... Electric cars, people! This is something that, you know, like when we used to talk about like future George Jetson type stuff, that sooner or later we're going to be driving around electric cars. Well, here's our chance to get electric cars. Nope, no. We need to ban it from being sold in this state. Why? Well, because these guys were already making money off the old system. They're lobbying to block it, and we're letting them do it. Once again, blocking advancement. Why? Greed. We're fucked! I'm sorry this video is so pessimistic, but what do you expect? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say? Again, if somebody can prove me wrong on the whole pessimism front, if he goes like, no, you know, we're making inroads here, this is changing there, and all that, get my hopes up, I would really appreciate it. But the problem is, I've been from one end of this country to the other, literally. I've talked to a whole lot of people. I've debated against a whole lot of people. Before my other video on the addendum to the Second Amendment, when I say you guys really have no idea my background, I've talked with some and been part of some rather interesting individuals trying to make some change around here. And you really, I mean, the amount of ignorance in this country is astounding. Absolutely astounding. And what really makes it scary is when you realize that a lot of that ignorance is actually being promoted on purpose. Like, they actually are trying to make these people not really know what's going on, or to know a few key facts here and there. And a lot of it is on purpose, but not necessarily in a quote-unquote sinister way. Like, they're not thinking to themselves, yeah, we need to make the people ignorant. No, it's more like, no, we need to keep this out of there because it messes with our agenda. Like trying to push creationism in schools, or trying to keep certain political viewpoints out, or certain things that happen in history out of classrooms. Trying to keep people ignorant because it somehow offends their sensibilities or because it happens to mess with their agenda. You see that all over the place. And it's funny how I talk to people online when they can't believe just how stupid people can get around here and just how much they cling onto ideologies that are completely detrimental to their own survival. And I'm like, I'm usually not surprised because I'm like, I live here and I've traveled through here and I've talked to a whole bunch of people from all different walks of life, and you'd be amazed how stupid people are. I mean, you may think, oh, I know how stupid people are. No, you don't. You really don't. Travel around, or like really go out and dare to actually talk to people face to face about some of the big issues, and you'd be amazed. I mean, I know the internet is bringing us closer together, and it's really starting to expose just how dumb and stupid people can be. But what cracks me up is people's reactions like, what the fuck? They're that dumb? Yes, they're that dumb. And it's going to cause their deaths. I guess I'll try to end this off on a somewhat bittersweet note because again, I don't know what else to say to make this happier. I wish I could. This once again is reminding me of Dark Souls in a bit. The first game, for those who have played it, they will know that there's a point when you go up and meet Hawkeye. I can never know whether you're supposed to pronounce his name Hawkeye Goff or Hawkeye Go. I usually say Goff, but whatever. But he has a rather interesting line that cracks me up because it's so true. He's basically talking about, and this is kind of minor spoilers. This is the first game though, not the second one. I'm not going to spoil anything in the second one. But he was talking about how in the town that he's in, the people there were dumb enough to awaken an ancient, I don't necessarily call it evil, but definitely something dangerous that caused the doom of the entire town. They meddled in stuff that they shouldn't have because of their own lust for power. And he says that, they awoke that thing themselves and drove it mad, and then it ended up dooming the whole town. But then he says another line that had me chuckle when I first heard it. And he goes, one's demise is always one's own making. I had to chuckle a bit at that. Because it's like, yeah. Yeah. And in this case, if advanced civilization does crumble, it will prove that point. Because our demise will be of our own making because we're just too freaking stupid to see reason. The solution is right in front of us, as well as the cliff. We just have to let go of our greed and be willing to admit that certain ideologies aren't necessarily working, and be willing to admit that, hey, maybe trying to make things fair for all of us and coming up with a better way to consume our resources without just gimme, 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 maybe that's a better way to live. But I'm not really seeing that happening in my lifetime, so yeah, we're probably fucked. Here's to the wisdom of Hawkeye Golf, I guess. Catch you guys later.